Now, welcome to another weekend ramble, where this time the topic is going to be...
The cinema, the movies, the thing you used to look forward to going to anytime something came out.
Well, not any time, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
We used to go to the movies a lot more than we do nowadays.
Well, even as a kid, I remember going to the movies being such a special event, a special occasion, something really to look forward to, as an outing.
Yeah, it was a family, kind of a big event for us when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now, which is, quite a few years ago.
Looking back, I wonder how much it costed to take my entire family to go see anything in the movie theater.
Relatively speaking, not as much as today. I mean, even factoring in inflation and all that, I think it cost more to see a movie today than, comparatively it would have.
Comparatively, yes.
30 years ago, 35 years ago, whatever. Because obviously we were all kids at different times here listening.
Facts. But the thing we talked about this with our Discord too, because we were having a big discussion about the theater.
Yeah.
About, is the theater dying? Going to the experience at the, for us it's like Marcus. That's our big theaters, yeah. Marcus. Sometimes AMC.
We have some AMC, but they're usually not as good
and I feel
in terms
like
of seating.
They're falling into disarray. Like, there's one theater, one we go to when it's not a huge movie, and they just aren't keeping up.
No, I don't want to call it rundown, and it's a newer-ish theater.
Newer-ish. It's at least 30 years old.
I don't know if it's quite that old.
No, it's 20 years old.
20, yeah.
Let's say 20 years old.
But it was a premier theater in the area until
it really
recently.
was.
And now it's just,
until they built a different theater.
Yeah, but they have another couple theaters in the area, so we actually have a lot of theaters in the general area where we live.
The theaters have come a long way. They've added for us, they've added, and I know a lot of other theaters have too, they've added the dream loungers, the power recliners that have optional heating, and theaters that have the bistro setting where you can order food from your seats, and they'll come and they'll bring the food to you and stuff. And
you did it. I didn't. You did it, I think, with your cousin.
I've done it 2 different occasions at 2 different theaters for my birthday. Both times my cousins took me out.
Where was I for your birthday?
Exactly.
I think I was working on both those occasions, but that's a while ago now.
Mm-hmm. I think once was for Thor: The Dark World, and
yeah, you saw it the first time without me, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, you did.
They've improved the comforts of the theater, which I like. They've improved ticket buying, which I've loved.
I like that you can reserve seating, too.
Yes, that I can buy my seats before I ever go, where I can kind of look at the layout and go, okay, well, these seats are taken. I'm going to put myself over here and hope no one buys the seats next to me.
Yeah, in many ways, the convenience factor has gone up. Going back to 1999, Phantom Menace release, I remember 6 in the morning, I got in line for tickets that went on sale at 2, not being anywhere close to the front in line. And then, you just get generic tickets. We showed up to the theater for the movie 4 hours early, still not close to front in line. So, all this extra time I spent trying to get decent seats to the showing I wanted. And
well, even when we went to see Avengers. We went opening night at a midnight premiere, you and me and a bunch of our friends, and we had to stand in line in front of the theater waiting.
I feel like that's the last time it was actual midnight showing.
Yeah,
and
now
we
it's
didn't have
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, they're Thursday at 3 o'clock, go see the first showing, and you'll have assigned seating and all that, and pick up your concessions. You can order them online early.
But I feel like the theater experience is dying. We've seen that a lot of the quote-unquote big blockbuster movies aren't making the money. And it can't just be because the movies have been a little more lackluster.
It's part of it.
It's part of it, but I feel like there's a much bigger story to be told as to why movies aren't making back their budgets like they used to.
Because the budgets have gotten out of hand, too.
The budgets have gotten way inflated. Indiana Jones had such a huge budget, not counting marketing. There was no way they were making this back.
No, not unless it was a phenomenal film, yeah.
Exactly, because now it needed word of mouth then, because people saw the trailers and were not hyped. You have other influences like YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
You get those YouTubers, some of them get advanced screenings and stuff, and if they come out and they bomb your movie, your ticket sales are going to go down. Yeah, plus the YouTubers with the huge reach aren't going to promote you.
Plus, they did show Indiana Jones at the Cannes Film Festival, and it kind of bombed there, or was panned.
It got a 5-minute standing ovation, which apparently the standing ovation is kind of a joke.
Oh.
Because everything gets a standing ovation. Other things at the same time or something have gotten 9-minute, and it was much more genuine than the 5-minute that I know.
Well, I know I read the reviews out of Cannes, and it wasn't impressive.
Most unimpressive.
Yeah.
I think some of this comes to, of course, streaming as well.
Well, let's go with the budget thing first.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I watched Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I couldn't help but think, 30 years ago, I was watching Indiana Jones movies that looked, in some ways, just as good as this, right?
Yeah.
Like, but now you're doing a lot more CGI, I feel, of course, and the budgets have been inflated. And granted, there's this thing called inflation where things just cost more. But I'm like, does it really cost that much to make this film? Did it cost that much, relatively speaking, back then? I mean, what has happened that these budgets are just ridiculous? Like 250, $300 million.
Is it because there's so many more people making movies that they feel like they're in competition with a lot more studios?
But are they? I mean, they're in competition. They're all making just blockbusters now. It feels like there's either the big blockbuster superhero movie of the week, or it's these very small films that have tiny budgets that, you know, even if they don't get a ton of people to watch, they're probably not losing a ton of money because they didn't put a bunch of money in. It's that middle ground movie that seems to have disappeared entirely.
But as to go back to what I had started bringing up,
sure.
Streaming, I think, is one of those nails in the coffin that's destroying theaters, going to the movies to see something, especially because COVID started it.
COVID did start it, but I mean, COVID is now...
That's where the movies that were meant to come out in the theaters didn't come out in the theaters. They just threw them up on HBO or Disney Plus or Netflix, and they said, here, subscribe to us, give us, your money that way. They recouped some of the cost of their film, and people got to see it from the comfort of their own home.
Yeah, and a lot of people have nice theaters in their own home. Good sound system, large screen. You can pause it on a whim.
Yeah.
Your snacks don't cost you $30.
That's another problem.
Yeah, you can just have your own buttercorn at home. But no, it's true. Like, the home experience has improved a lot in the last 20 years even.
Absolutely.
With high-def 4K, phenomenal surround sound. You can have 7.1 surround in your home. Like, again, and you can pause it. You can come back to it. You can go pee, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, that is a big advantage as well. And I think COVID is another thing that really bolstered streaming.
Well, yeah.
You couldn't go to the theater. We got turned into a culture of people who stay at home for everything.
Yeah.
Because you had to order your groceries to come and get them delivered. You had to order food to come and get it delivered. Your movies were now coming out at home. They didn't want us to leave the home. We were all quarantined, encouraged to stay in. Then a lot of people were out of work and didn't have the money to go anywhere anyway.
Yeah, I feel like that accelerated the whole delivery. I want everything brought to me culture that we kind of live in today. Like, everything is brought to you now. If you have a job where you work at home, you could literally never have to leave your house. Everything could be brought to you. Everything could be...
It's a strange thing, yes.
It is a really strange thing.
You talk to your doctor on Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, so many things can be done from home or brought to you. It's ridiculous in a way that you don't have to ever go anywhere for a lot of people.
It's another thing that destroyed the theaters. Why go when, if you wait a month, they'll put it on the screen?
Yeah, I also think that's part of what COVID did is it kind of shortened that gap in between theater to home release. It felt like
that used to be like you'd have to wait at least 4 months, 4 to 6 months.
Jeez, when you were
a kid, it was like a year.
VHS was like it takes at least 6, 7, 8 months, and then maybe a year later it's on like cable HBO type show, channels, and now it's.
Well, I've heard because Flash did bad in the theater, they're rushing it to HBO.
Yeah.
So what was the encouragement to go see Flash in the theater? To slow it down from getting to the streaming?
Well, I mean, Ant-Man Quantumanium is a good example for us. That was the first Marvel movie we skipped because we were both like, I'm not super excited to see this one, and it'll be on Disney Plus in a few weeks, or we'll get our copy because we collect them. We'll get our copy on, 4K, our steelbook copy like we do. So we just waited instead of paying the $35 it would have cost us to go to a movie and maybe get a drink and a bucket of popcorn or something.
Yeah, and like you brought up earlier, how advanced the home theater systems have become. It takes some of the spectacle out of going to a theater. You used to go to the theater and go, look at how big that screen is. Now you go and you go, I guess that's not that big compared to what I've got at home.
Yeah, now you plopped on it in front of your home screen. You might even have better quality images for some theaters.
That's one reason, I think, why The Way of Water did so well in the box office, because they made it a spectacle.
Yeah.
It was shot for IMAX. It was designed for these big screens. The 3D was there. These were things you couldn't get at home. That's why I think Oppenheimer is definitely one you should see in the theater.
Yeah.
The way they filmed it was designed to be viewed that way.
I think, unfortunately, for cinema, the theaters, and all that, the studios, Avatar 15 years ago, it looked like Avatar was going to start a new trend and a new kind of, I don't want to call it gimmick, because it didn't feel like a gimmick for Avatar, but it felt like a gimmick for everything else that came after it, which is 3D. That felt like that was the reason you were going to now have to go to a theater, because you would see this spectacle in 3D.
And they tried.
They
didn't do it as well as Avatar.
No.
But there was definitely that push for that more depth-driven 3D, I was going to call it.
Yeah, that was what kind of blew me away about Avatar. Is it looked like it had depth. It looked three-dimensional, not in that like, oh, it's gonna pop out and hit you in the face thing.
There's no experience going to the theater that I can compare with seeing that first Avatar movie in the theaters, the way it was meant to be seen. And I feel like the studios almost need to push themselves to make it so that when you go to the theater, you're going to get an otherworldly experience.
They need to
I want to see something that's unique to seeing it in the theater that says, if I see this in the theater, I'm never going to be able to watch it at home the same. I'll always know that it was best viewed on the giant screen in a theater.
Yeah, I agree. They need to find something, whether or not that's kind of a resurrection of 3D or kind of advancing that technology.
Yeah,
or
they
need to figure something out to make it feel special again, to see it on the big screen instead of seeing it on your own big screen at home.
Exactly. That's the magic that I feel like is missing. Because when I was a kid, everything on that big screen looked magical because you couldn't get a big TV at home, not unless you were a rich person.
Even then, you didn't get unless you had a projection TV.
I feel like your computer screen.
Oh, that's bigger than the screen I had.
Bigger than the TV that my family had growing up.
Yeah, I got a 38-inch ultra wide. That's bigger than what it kind of boggles my mind because when I was a kid, we had like a 21-inch TV or 17-inch TV or something like that in the living room.
It was for the whole family. And nowadays, it's like, oh, that's how small your TV is? What? Yeah. You can go to Black Friday at Walmart and get one 3 times the size for half the money.
Yeah.
So the screen is no longer just the issue. It has to be more. I saw a promotion that some Marcus theaters are going to be doing this extra wall thing for like 180 degree.
I've heard about that, yeah.
And I'm like, well, if films start actually producing that 180 degree, I'm like, well, that could be really cool that you can turn your heads to the side and you're still like in the action but keep the main focus up front, maybe push it off to the sides occasionally.
To see what it actually looks like, but
theaters would need to remodel a bit.
Oh, quite a bit, I would imagine.
And you always have to contend with, will this cause people motion sickness?
Yeah.
But I think it could be really interesting. Yeah. The new 3D, I think, is a lot easier on people with the motion sickness problems because my dad was okay with it, and he's not good with 3D.
Well, we also need I think we need a revolution of the movies themselves, not just the way they're presented and all that, but just look at what we got this summer. We got our 5th Indiana Jones movie. We got our 7th Transformers movie. We got our 10th Fast and Furious movie. We got our umpteenth superhero movie.
We need to expand.
Yeah,
originally Marvel was being unique because they changed up their genres, it felt like, so much in between the movies. Yeah. But they've seemingly stopped doing that.
It used to feel like every Marvel movie that came out had a kind of a sub-genre that it fell into. Now it's just the Marvel genre.
Yeah. Ant-Man was the heist movie. The next 2 Ant-Man were just not the same. Yeah, they really just fell into
like Quantumanium just felt like watching Love and Thunder or watching Ragnarok. It was kind of that weird, wonky, going to a foreign place and everything's bright and colorful and strange, and it just didn't feel like what Ant-Man had been like.
And none of them have felt like Civil War or like Winter Soldier. They've lost that edge. I feel like they're trying to do it with a Secret Invasion.
And just not pulling it off.
Yeah. But I like also that streaming services are still getting movie theater premieres because we talked about Rebel Moon in a video a little while ago. And Rebel Moon is supposed to be getting at least a limited theatrical release. And I'd be interested in actually seeing it in the theater, even as opposed to seeing it on Netflix.
Sure.
Because
it's R-rated too.
Warrants it.
You're getting a bigger, yeah.
Well, I don't know if the R-rated version will be getting.
I thought the R-rated. Oh, maybe not.
No, because I think they're starting with the PG-13 version, and he said he will release the R version, his hardcore version.
Sounds wrong, but okay.
But I would like to see it in the theater, as long as the trailers prove to me it's going to be epic, like Dune. You had to see Dune on the big screen.
Yeah, Dune that's a good example because that felt different.
The scaling on it just made you feel small in this grandiose cinematic shots.
The cinematography of Dune is glorious.
If you do great cinematography, I want to see you in the theater. Even the Godzilla, especially King of the Monsters, the cinematography in that was so beautiful that I'm like, this has to be seen in the theaters to really.
I feel like that's a forgotten art in a lot of like Marvel movies, for example.
They're turning Michael Bay on you.
Well, yeah, to an extent, it's just
sensationalism, but they're losing that artistry that you can put into these movies. Even, come on, a Godzilla movie, I'm admiring for the beauty of it, for the art of it, not just because I get to watch giant monsters.
Yeah.
And that's important, like Dune. Dune is a wonderful, deep, beautiful story. Add in a fantastic cinematographer.
Yeah.
What else could I want?
And amazing art direction, too. It's just everything about
art direction, the music, it's all on point.
Yeah, like I was saying about Marvel, it's a lot of them just look the same now. They're very bright and
Yes.
colorful, very kind of wonky and fun, but they don't really have anything.
They're missing the scaling in the cinematography. There's something they're
Something wrong.
lacking right now
Yes.
because they're caring more about quantity over quality.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They sometimes I feel like they need to slow down. I mean, the Blade movie that's coming out, why not make it kind of in like a style of a noir film? I
Yeah.
feel like that could really suit Blade.
Oh, yeah. I think that could work really well.
You think they'll do that though?
No, they're going
No.
to make a generic Blade.
Exactly. They've got these things coming up that could be shown really in interesting lights. Even the Daredevil series that's coming, he is blind. You could do
Yes.
some really cool visuals showcasing how the fights are done in a point of view of someone who sees things
Okay. Who
through
does
his
it?
powers
Okay.
in a different way.
I thought you were trying to be mean there for a second.
No.
Visually showing blindness. Yeah.
No, I'm saying that
No,
they
I
could
know what you
showcase
mean,
what
yes.
he can do in a really unique way by thinking outside the box instead of just going, well, here's a guy who can't see, let's just watch him beat people up
Or
with
they
shaky
can
cam.
Just have a really long fight scene without a cut.
Yes, they could do that again, like Netflix
I mean, isn't
managed.
it funny how Netflix, that's more creative than anything we've seen out of the MCU in ages? I take that back. The Hawkeye series had that one, the car chase scene where they were kind of did it all one
that
take.
was good.
That was
That was
like
so good.
we need to get more creative, not just you put the same slop on the screen and you spruce it up and do some CGI and you
They've
end
got
up
a
with something like
universe
the Flash
full of
sometimes.
crazy people, crazy beings that can do amazing different things. Why are we always seeing everything the same way?
Shaky cam.
Oh, God,
Whoever
I
invented
hate
the shaky cam needs to be.
I understand that it makes things look
flogged.
more urgent or fast paced.
Yeah, it covers up mistakes too.
It does do that.
But anyway,
So I would love to see a resurgence of the theater becoming a good place to go again. A place that's full of these wondrous movies that bring, happiness and joy and light. And the things I remember from being a kid. Going to the movies was an occasion, event, a special. And I want that feeling rather than,
But
well,
yeah.
I'm going to the movies because I want to see this right when it comes out. Not because I care about how it's shot in the screen and
yeah.
all that.
Yeah, I think Way of the Water and then before that Dune were the last two movies that I felt like I walked out of the theater like feeling like I had experienced something, not just
Yes,
watched a movie on a
yes.
giant screen.
There was an experience involved that can't
Yeah.
be replaced.
Yeah, I couldn't go because we watched Dune shortly because I think Dune came out on home really quick, didn't it? If I'm recalling right, because we watched it again really soon after
Mm-hmm.
on at home, and I'm like, we got a big screen TV, mind you, but
I
I was
think it
like,
came out in the. I think it didn't it come out at the same time in both.
I think so.
I think HBO or something got a hold of it right away
Yeah.
and put it out at the same time because it was during COVID.
Was it during COVID?
I feel like
was it that long
I don't
ago?
remember. You
But I
guys can
swear-
correct me if I'm wrong.
I swear we watched it in the theater, and then right after we were watching it at home, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that was an experience. And again, we got a nice big screen TV, so
But it
was
wasn't. It still wasn't the same as watching it in the theater.
no, it wasn't. So yeah, I agree. They need to figure something out. Otherwise, I think cinema will continue
it
this
really
downward
could
trend.
die.
Yeah,
You have to want to go to the theater more than just I have to see this before I see spoilers.
which is the reason why some people do go to the movies these days.
Yep.
All right, well, I think we've rambled on long enough, so now it's your turn to take to the comments below and weigh in on this topic as well. Do you miss the old theater experience when you were a kid? Did it feel more exciting? What's missing nowadays? What kind of quote-unquote gimmick should they try to, or do you think could work for the theaters? Or do they just need to make quality films that work for the theater again? Are we just losing that? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some movies. And until next time, thanks for watching.